Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. I hope all of you've had a great week. It's been a crazy long week. I feel like, I feel like every time I come on here, I say that it's been a short week or I feel like the time kind of flew by. This week felt like a week, if not more. But it's been a long week, very productive. I feel like there's just so much change happening. I've been speaking to friends and just people that are, close to me and just around me, and I'm feeling like maybe all of us collectively are in some kind of moment of change right now, kind of addressing certain things or just things that I've even noticed with certain people that I've kind of pegged them for a certain type of person and not necessarily like judging them for being that type of person, but more or less feeling as though I can kind of see their mindset or expect their response to something, and I've come to a few situations where I'm seeing that people are very different, like kind of addressing things that are much bigger than what I would imagine it like people doing. So it's always, I don't know, it always just kind of surprises me, and I love it too because obviously these are people I care about and people that I love being connected with. So I love when I see that change and I see that it's a change that's happening within themselves and outside of themselves, and it's for what they want to do for themselves. And I think that that's something that's so great. I love supporting my friends. Support your friends, people. Do what you can to support the people that you love and care about. And I mean, obviously, like, don't go out of your way to do something that's like extensive effort on your end if you don't feel like you want to do that. But I mean, it's always really great to just like to support people in their process of change, just as you would want to be supported in that same process of change. So support your friends, support your family, support the people that you love and care about, and you want to see them doing the best that they can do. So that's that. But it's been, yeah, it's been great seeing all the change that's been happening. It's been, you know just very refreshing in seeing that out of all the dismay and all the craziness that's happened this year, that I feel like there's definitely a period of transformation that we're embarking on right now. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what that entails for all of us, including myself. So hope all of you have been well in general over this past week, and hopefully maybe it was not as long as it was for you as it was for me. But again, all good things, so it's nothing too bad. Speaking of good things, I finished watching this show called Mindhunter. I'm not sure if many of you have heard of it. Again, I think I've spoken to y'all about my love of true crime and things of the like. And Mindhunter is like, I thought it was like a really great show. It ended kind of abruptly. I watched the first season. I think there were only like 5 or 8 episodes or something in the first season. The second season had maybe like 12 or something. But so they weren't like terribly long seasons, but it was like a good show. But I feel like there was like a lot more that could have been done. Like I feel like the show just kind of just dropped and ended, and I'm not sure if there's gonna be more of it because there was this, kind of like how the end of movies have those credits that kind of say, "Oh, this is what's happened from like since this point in time," kind of indicating that like there's not gonna be any more of it. So I guess I have to like look into that. But if any of you haven't watched the show and are fans of true crime, Mindhunter, it's a really great show. Um, yeah, that's a little bit of my Netflix corner here. But like another thing that I started watching was Ozark. I actually just started watching that last night, and it's interesting. This is like the third time I've tried picking up that show, and it's not like it's a bad show at all. Actually, like after watching the second episode, I was like, oh, this is not bad, and then I watched the third episode, and almost watched the fourth episode. But it's definitely a good show. I don't know why it took me so long to get into it, but there are a few shows like that just like take me forever to get into it. Like Dexter, I think that's another show that it's on my to watch list on Netflix, but I've tried watching that show like 3 times, like, and I've given it more than one episode. Like I've given it like 6 episodes, where I've kind of the furthest I've gotten was like 6 episodes in, and then I just stopped watching it. I'm not really sure why, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I guess like I'm just gonna get right into it because again, this is just an episode with me by myself, no guests. It's been a while since I've had a guest on, so I will probably get a guest on. I was really hoping that I can like find an astronaut or some some kind of astrophysicist or somebody to interview for this topic about space, but unfortunately that was something that wasn't able to happen. Again, like this week has been so busy that coordinating all of that, I it would have just been kind of hectic. Also, I guess without trying to go too far off the idea of the shows that I've been watching. Well, I guess let me backtrack a little bit. Say we're going to be speaking about space, as I said, and many of you have heard about Elon Musk, and I'm not sure if you've heard about him because of the SpaceX program or Tesla or just his strange tweets recently or like in the past few weeks that have been a little crazy. But I mean, like, I think crazy is kind of a weird word. I always love when people kind of just put stuff on the internet, but obviously, like, if you are a public figure, you're gonna have a lot more criticism coming your way. But I always just appreciate people kind of just doing their own thing and saying, fuck it, like, I don't care what people say, what people think, like, that's just gonna be what that is. But many people were going on about his child's name, which was X dash, and then it's like this AE symbol, then dash A dash 12. And apparently, I guess he was on the Joe Rogan Experience a few months back, and he basically explained what the name of his child was going to be called. And the AE is pronounced Ash, so it's X Ash A12, which is, I mean, that's a super interesting name. Apparently, the wife, his partner, mostly came up with the name. So I think that's really interesting. But again, he started and founded the SpaceX program, and essentially their mission is to kind of reutilize the space rockets, like in try to at least like reuse them so they can leave the atmosphere, land on Mars or the moon or whatever, and be redeployed back and kind of like come back here, and rather than basically like a space shuttle system rather than just a completely useless space rocket once it kind of goes out of the atmosphere, because as I understand now, rockets that go out of the atmosphere once they like land on the moon or something, it comes back, and I think that it kind of gets destroyed as it comes back into the atmosphere. So I think they're just trying to avoid that destruction from happening and kind of save billions of dollars because it takes so much money to build a spacecraft. But anyway, he has a show called, well, he doesn't have the show, but he's on the show, and I think the show is kind of based around his idea for SpaceX, and there is essentially this big idea of colonizing Mars, and the show is called Mars, and they do like a kind of, it's like a drama type of show, but there's also little snippets of actual astrophysicists and scientists that are working on creating these rockets, and kind of theorizing what it would be like to be on Mars, and what that life would be like, and how colonization would happen. So I think Mars is on its second season and maybe going into its third season. The second season was already out a while ago, but yeah, it's a good show. If that's another show y'all want to watch, just thinking about the topic today. But today, I already said the topic was going to be about space. But before that, I'm going to bring up the box, which is right here, and figure out what the topic for next week is. I haven't put any new topics into the box yet, but I have been receiving the emails and messages. So those topics will be put in the box, and I will address them on here just so that you know that they've been placed inside the box, and you know that your comments and stuff have been heard and whatnot. So the topic for next week, and I'm kind of excited about this and kind of scared because I don't know what it means. I mean, what it's going to be. So, drugs and alcohol. Perfect. No, not perfect, but I mean, hey, it's. I feel like it's an interesting topic because first off, the way that I wrote it, drugs and alcohol, as if alcohol is not a drug, because alcohol is definitely a drug. But I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with that. It's definitely not going to be shaming anyone for doing drugs and alcohol. I mean, I feel like that'd be a little hypocritical, and knowing my experiences as well as many of other people's experiences with maybe both. So I think that's going to be an interesting topic. So drugs and alcohol is going to be the topic for next week, and I think that maybe there will be a guest. Who knows? I mean, things are settling down a little bit here on my end, so I'm going to see about that and see kind of the direction I want to go in with it and play it by ear. I, my uncle used to think it was playing by hear, like you like hear something like you're just like playing it by how you're hearing it, which makes sense. But I mean, like it's play it by ear. At least I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, and I guess it's just a turn of phrase, so you don't really need to be right or wrong as long as you know what you're meaning by it. So anyway, oh, speaking of that, I've been saying what have I been saying to people? I've been saying oh, for the time being, like BEAN instead of BEING, for the time being. So I've been saying, yeah, like for the time being, and like no one's caught on to it. Like I've said it so many times to different people. I've even been like forcing the phrase because I don't really say for the time being at all, you know, but I've been saying a little bit more and kind of some trying to emphasize being, but still no one kind of catches on to it because I guess it's just like one of those things that maybe so many people do that they don't care about it, but I think it's hilarious every time it happens. But anyway, the topic for today is going to be about space. And you know, as I was thinking about this topic, I'm like, you know, I feel like this is, you know, I don't know. I didn't really know what to think about the topic itself as far as its relevance with everything. But I mean, like the topic, I mean episode, the episode, this podcast, this podcast. The name of the podcast is Everything Under the Sun, which I mean, it literally does encompass like all these different topics, and I definitely want to stay true to the name itself, but also like the root of what everything under the sun is. First of all, I am so bad at narrowing on topics. I When I was doing my master's thesis, my thesis advisor, like this is a year into doing my thesis advisor said, okay, so we still need to narrow in on exactly what you're going to be speaking about. So I'm always like very very bad at just, you know, selecting something, so selecting one type of genre or specific thing, and that's because, you know, I feel like just like all of us, we are so much more than just one topic. We're so much more than just one thing, and that's why when we experience things like depression and anxiety and bipolar, and you know, we experience these things, and that, but that is not us, you know, like we have so many more aspects and attributes to us that need to be acknowledged. We have so many more interests and hobbies and loves and hates, you know, so like we need to explore all of those things, and that's what the show is about. It's about bring community to conversation about the things that are meaningful to us, the things that mean something, you know, that make up the interests that we have in the things that make life worth living, essentially. So space, it's so much, so incredibly relevant because it involves all of us. We live, again, like on this planet Earth. I mentioned this last episode. We live on this planet Earth, which is just floating in this abyss of space. Like the life as we know it, the life as we understand it would not be without just like all the events that, you know, obviously preceded this explosion of mass and energy that is space. So it's really amazing. I love space. Space is incredibly just interesting and fascinating, and the thing that makes it so fascinating is that we know so little about it. There's so much to explore. There's so much out there, and I think that's what's always driven me, is that kind of idea that we don't know it, you know, and it's like there's so much mystery in that, and I think that there's so much complacency that we start to have when we just have answers to things. I think it's human nature for us to constantly want to explore something more, constantly want to understand more, and it doesn't have to be in like vast ways of understanding the, you know, essence of space, but it can be like just an understanding in our lives, a new hobby that we want to take on, a new skill that we want to learn, a new interest in a show or a genre that we're trying to adventure into. So there's this avenue of just, you know, exploration of something new that we all kind of take part in our own little ways, in our own little microcosms, and however that is. So I think space is, you know, just like one of those things that it's so mysterious, and that mystery drives me towards it. So that's, I don't know, I think I've always really loved it. I've always watched Science Channel and, you know, space and all that stuff like that. So it's really interesting. If any of you are interested in space or astrology or anything like that, you may have heard about this comet that came by, and I completely missed it because I heard nothing about it. Again, like it's been kind of chaos for the past few weeks, but Comet Neowise, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right, but Comet Neowise apparently is like this comet that it's only gonna come around, like it's the next time it's gonna come around is like 6,800 years from now. So, you know, if you want to see that, or if you missed it or something, you're gonna have to start taking those Flintstone vitamins now or something. But you, it's gonna be quite a minute before that comet comes back around here. And apparently, it's one of the most visible comets that's been seen, like in our lifetime or something like that. I was just kind of like glancing over the article not too long ago before recording this, and yeah, I thought that was really interesting. So I guess around like the 15th of this month, that's when it was kind of visible. I'm guessing it's still visible because from what the article is saying, it's going to be traveling towards the sun. So as we look at it, it's going to be kind of passing us and going into the distance. So it'll just be getting smaller and smaller and smaller as time went on. So individuals that are in the southern hemisphere, or yeah, so that's going to be something that you won't actually be able to see. Only individuals in the northern hemisphere would have been able to see that if it was still around. I'm guessing if you have like a telescope or something, you may still be able to see it, but I'm not really sure how far north in the hemisphere that this article is speaking about. But I thought that was something interesting if any of you are really interested in that kind of stuff. But that was that was just like something interesting I thought because I just read it again. But again, this idea of space, I think that it's something that's incredibly unknown and mysterious. And when I think about that, it makes me feel as though, I start questioning that, like, what is there? Like, it makes me think of something so much bigger than myself. Like, yeah, what is there out there? Like, what is life? Because it's like all of life kind of exploded from this big bang as we understand it from science, and that's like space and the mass and just all of this energy that's forming planets and celestial dust and gases that's essentially like helps to form the planet that we live on right now, the planet that you're listening to this podcast in. And it's like like all of creation essentially like happened from that. And we think about the vastness of creation happening just from being born into the world, but think about creation itself, the creation of humans, and there's like so much more into that, and I'm going to speak about that in a minute, just like that idea of creation versus evolution, like the two different sides of how we came to be where we are. But anyway, I feel as though, again, like that question is like, what is life? What is the life that I feel as though I understand for myself? And what's the life that's like that is around me, and where is life? And I think that's another big thing is like I don't believe that we are the only intelligent life in this vastness of space. I think that'd be scary, and because space is huge, it's huge. And if we are the only living intelligent life in this entire vacuum of space, then I feel very, very alone, and it's very scary to think about that. The only sentient beings, it doesn't make sense to me, and it also just would like frighten me to even think about that idea of us being just completely alone in this universe. But I do believe that there is intelligent life out there, and I believe that because I mean, like, there are astrophysicists that are speaking about this idea of a galactic habitable zone, and this zone is essentially a zone in every galaxy, and there are hundreds of billions of galaxies that we haven't even been able to see all of them yet. But it's like, as we've mapped out space as it is, that's what astrophysicists have estimated, just like an abundance of galaxies out there, and within every galaxy there's this galactic habitable zone, and essentially it's a place within each galaxy. Something really interesting, I guess, like, just to back this up a little bit, but in the middle of every galaxy there's a black hole, and that black hole essentially holds the entire galaxy together, just like the gravitational force within our solar system keeps all the planets in line. It's kind of like the same thing on a different level, as above, so below, vice versa. So on a grander scale, that black hole is essentially holding the galaxy together and allowing it to not just fall apart into pieces and like fall into space and branch out in that way, or just like expand in that way. So in the middle there's a black hole, and that is what causes like the galaxy to hold into place. So outside of that, obviously, if you're too close to the black hole, there's chaos. There's a lot of gravitational force. There's no way that a planet can actually form any type of habitable life because of the chaos that's happening around the black hole. If you go too far outside of the galaxy, then you're too far away from anything that is substantial force. Like, think about gravity in itself, where if you start leaving the atmosphere of Earth, there's still gravity at these different levels of atmosphere, but then once you get to a certain level, obviously there's no gravity in its space. The same thing is happening with our galaxy in itself, is that if you're so far outside of this galaxy from this black hole, then essentially there is a possibility that just remnants and debris and things like that can just start like floating out and kind of pieces kind of falling out of the galaxy. It's just like it's all very natural, but there's no life that can exist there because again, like things are so spread out. There's not enough gravitational force to hold the solar system together and so forth. I feel like I'm really going on a rant, but it's all kind of coming back to me from when I was like watching the Science Channel and things like that. So in the middle, there's like this golden crest type of thing where that's the galactic habitable zone where life is able to exist because there's enough gravitational force to hold the solar system together, and it's far enough away from that black hole in the middle of the galaxy to not be complete chaos. So we live in that habitable zone obviously because we're alive and living, and within again every galaxy in this entire universe of space there is this crest as well. So that obviously leads many scientists and astrophysicists to believe that there is more intelligent life, and it's just a matter of when that connection will be made. So again, it's that's I feel like that was kind of just like a really long tangent to explain that, but I think that there's just so much that comes from that because again, this idea, this last episode about for purpose and finding purpose, I think that there is that part of it of finding purpose in our day-to-day life, but then there's that very existential idea of like what is life, what is meaning, like what is creation. And I feel like if there are intelligent beings, because compared to many other galaxies in this universe, the Milky Way galaxy which we live in is very it's not as old. Like there are other galaxies. That means that if there are other galaxies that are older than our galaxy, that means that the life that can exist there is obviously like thousands and thousands of years ahead of us, essentially, because they've been around that long. So if we think about this idea of purpose and meaning and understanding of what life is, and like just understanding in so many different ways, and of course we don't necessarily always have to venture outside of us to start finding understanding, but if we wanted to find answers in that way, I feel like other intelligent life could be something that's like that moves us to that next place, that gives us something to better understand about life in itself. There's actually this astrophysicist that many of you may have heard about. His name is Carl Sagan. He is a very intelligent man. He is known for so many advancements in our knowledge of just space and all of that stuff that's out there. But apparently he sent one of the first messages into space that would be able to be interpreted by other intelligent life. And basically it's just this message where it's like if it goes out there and there's other intelligent life out there, they would be able to interpret it and say, pretty much receive this message. I'm not sure what the message said, but I'm pretty sure it was like, hey, we're from Earth, we're here, and we're intelligent life kind of thing. But I think that that's just like one of those kind of amazing things. And this was sent years ago. I think he passed away, quite some time ago, but he is one of the top ranked astrophysicists. I actually went on Ranker, and they kind of rank all of the different astrophysicists, and he's number one. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, whose name I butchered last episode, is ranked number two. And they just have a whole list of just different people, which is just really interesting. But I thought that was just some interesting info to share about Carl Sagan and his message to intelligent life that's out there. I wonder if they received it. That's just something I kind of wondered as I read through that piece of info. But again, this isn't an episode about ET. This is an episode about space. So that's more just to say, okay, what is life? Where is life? This idea of space and being so vast, and why it's something that I think is so critical to our lives. And even though we don't think about it because maybe we're not faced with it, we, at night, if you are fortunate enough to live in an area that's not flooded with light pollution, you get to look up at the night sky and see like the stars, and it's really just amazing and beautiful to look at. And that's the only time that we seem to be really confronted with the idea that space is so vast and that we are just so small within it. So but there are so many questions, there are so many answers, there's so much to understand within that venture and that study of space, that I think that it's something that makes it a topic that's unique to us and something that's significant for us because we are part of that. It makes it something that's so much more a part of us than I think that we like to think about. And again, like going back to that idea of creation versus evolution, I think that again, I believe that why not have both exist? Why can't both exist? Like, why does it have to be one or the other? And I think just by example of that, there are many things that we create. I mean, the microchip was created, decades ago, and it's evolved to the cell phones and the computers and the many things that we use microchips for as it stands today. So both creation and evolution happened in that same respect. So I like to again like apply that principle of correspondence and say like as above so below. As we look at this smaller scale thing, we can actually attribute it to maybe a larger scale thing, and that's just my belief. You can believe whatever you want. I'm not here to impose any ideas on you, but I feel like with that being the case, and us precipitating essentially from the big bang, and like everything that came before it and everything that came after it, it's part of us. Like we seek so much to find answers, yet the answers are kind of, we're part of the answer that we seek. And and as I kind of thought about this idea, I thought that was so profound because I didn't really think about it too much. But if we are trying to understand what life is, how life was created, but we are the product of that creation event, then aren't we as much part of the answer as we are the like seeking the question? It's kind of just like something that blows my mind, and maybe it's just like it was a little heady for me to think about like as I was kind of reviewing this topic. But it's something that I think that is also just so true, and like what makes this topic's just so interesting for me and fascinating to kind of make me think outside of myself and try to wonder what else is out there, and what does that mean for the life that we have now. So yeah, I think that that's just like something that's really amazing. Another piece of that is that there have been so many ancient civilizations that have been looking at space. They've built, you know, towers and pyramids and things like that, and these structures to observe the stars and observe the constellations and things like that. And I don't believe that necessarily we have to go through all the traditions that ancient people had, because they did human sacrifices to appease the gods and create rain and fruitful crop for the year. But that's not something that we have to also hold on to. But I feel like there's significance to what's out there and how it relates to us as people. So I kind of like, I say that and I wrote down Ancient Aliens, like that show Ancient Aliens. I'm not sure if any of you have watched it, but it's essentially this show. I want to say it's on the History Channel, which made me kind of upset with the History Channel. Not necessarily like upset with the History Channel, but I've been kind of upset with the History Channel for a while now. And I had a history teacher that actually corroborated this because I thought I was just crazy and being cynical. But they used to like have really great documentaries and all this other stuff up there. Like just, I feel like just like very historically driven, factual stuff. And I haven't watched History Channel in a while because I haven't had cable in a long time. But I mean, who has cable anymore? I'm kidding. My mom has cable, and I love going home and just like watching random things on TV, then complaining about being nothing on TV. Anyway, the History Channel used to be something that I used to watch a lot. But anyway, Ancient Aliens, I think it's on the History Channel or maybe the Discovery Channel. Doubt it's on the Discovery Channel, but maybe it is. But the show was basically about all these ancient remains and findings that people would find, and certain things that they would just say like, were these civilizations far advanced than the one that we have now, or was it aliens? And it's just like kind of just this this show. But anyway, it's interesting to watch. You kind of regret getting sucked into it after a while, but that show just made me think about that as I brought up that idea about just ancient civilizations looking at the stars and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. That's just something that I thought was interesting, and I like to just look at things. Like I also believe in folklore. Like there's a lot of things about, dragons and, gnomes and, fairies and things like that, and just across different civilizations across the world. I feel like if it were just, in Eastern Europe or something, then maybe that's just like a general folklore or story. But I feel like just different cultures across different times speak about these different things that are also very similar. So I don't know. I believe that there's some truth to the things that maybe keep being reoccurred in history. And as we look at ancient civilizations across the world at different times and, centuries apart, they all, like kind of look up to the stars and have these towers and things to measure constellations and things like that. So I believe there's some truth to it, and I feel like there's just a lot to kind of think about when we think about the idea of space. And I spoke about uh, the last episode. I spoke about Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I completely butchered his name, but yes, he's a astrophysicist, and he is. I mean, maybe a lot of you have saw the show Cosmos. He's on there a lot, speaking about space. So if any of you are interested in just learning about some of that, you can always just watch that show. It's kind of entertaining. But yeah, I think that this topic was just something that I wasn't really sure again, like the direction I was going to go in. I think that as I speak about it, maybe there was just like a little bit more of an idea of just like interest in it, just because it's, I don't know. I feel like again, like it's just something that's just so much bigger than us. I think it's something that we can kind of look at and question the state of our own reality as we think that we understand everything, that is around us. We feel like we kind of have the answers to all things because we're this higher being and this higher force, and something super intelligent. And I think that there's maybe a lot more out there that we have to understand and have to look at and explore. And I think that that's just one of those amazing mysteries in life, one of those amazing gifts in life, to constantly have new things to explore. Because what would life be again if we knew all the answers to everything? If we knew exactly everything that was, I feel like that would lose adventure, like the very essence of life. And maybe it's just the essence of life because it's all that we've ever known, is this idea of just constantly questioning, constantly learning and growing, and understanding new things about the world around us and the world inside of us and how they relate, because they do relate in so many different ways. And I mean, we we could even say that it relates in the ultimate way, just like how our perception and how our internal experiences reflect our external world. So yeah, so that's that. I'm not really sure if much was gleaned from this episode. I feel as though it was again like more of just like an interest piece where just speaking about some of the stuff that is interesting, and I guess I wanted to take it more in the perspective of how it relates to our psyche, how it relates to ourselves. And I guess like it went less into like our psyche, other than like that super existential question of, what is life, and how do we find understanding and purpose and meaning in it. But I think that it's just one of those things again that should be spoken about. I mean, it doesn't have to be in detail. Maybe this is one of those conversations you can have while drinking or doing something with people, and just kind of like speak about like, oh shit, like yeah, this is super crazy. Like, can you believe that? Blah 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 blah. Like, I mean, I say that, but I'm just like hearing myself talk about these conversations, and I'm not sure if this happens to any of you, but have you ever been speaking and then you kind of got tired of hearing yourself speak, or kind of got tired of what you were saying, so you started thinking about something else? I do that so often. I'll start having a conversation, I'll start talking about something, and I will lose interest in what I'm saying. So then I'll start thinking about something else, and in the midst of that I'll like kind of freeze up on what I was saying, as if I like didn't fully downloading the thought and like putting it out there before I started thinking about something else. So yeah, a lot of times I'll be speaking about something and then I'll stop because I'm just like uninterested. So when I say blah blah blah, that's what I'm referring to. I oftentimes will bring up conversation and not want to speak about it any longer. So yeah, I think I'm just kind of rambling on at this point. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed. Hope you got something from it. Maybe share your thoughts, ideas. You can go to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com and send those in, any topic ideas or thoughts on the subject of today. You can join the Instagram page at everything.sunpodcast. You can join the Twitter page at everysunpodcast, or you can join the Facebook group at Everything Under the Sun with Ty. And yeah, I think that's all. Rate, review, subscribe, share with friends, enjoy conversations with people, support your friends, and yeah, love you all. See you next time.